Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. My name's Jeff Gorell. I run our professional services division for Convergent. One of the things that makes our team so strong is that all of our engineers carry the highest certifications that manufacturers have to offer. When you work with our team, you get assigned a solution architect, someone who will manage your technical relationship the same way a sales person manages that side of the relationship. Um, we build consistent solutions. This brings continuity, and we tend to try to become an extension of your organization, uh, so that we can take care of your business challenges as they come through. So yes, reach out to me whenever you might need some assistance or ideas, and we'll be happy to take care of you.
Thanks, Jeff. I know everybody's here to see the solution live being run by I call them the very smart technical people. So I guess I'll turn that over now to begin the presentation.
That's for you, Mark.
All right. Well, thank you so much, John, and thank you all of the attendees for joining us today. So of introduction, my name is Mark Kravitz. I am with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. My focus is around the private cloud and virtualization portfolio of HPE. So, all things, private cloud solutions, what we're doing around the VM Essentials. And obviously, this is a big topic right now with our customers as they look, just like you, looking for options. What are their next steps? How do we reduce a lot of the risk around, not just a monetary perspective, but in terms of, our workloads, help make the right choices around, what workloads may fit in that, what our hypervisor strategy might be going forward. So these are a lot of things that we are working with and partnering with companies like CTG around our technology. So what I'm going to do is a brief overview of what we're doing with VM Essentials, how we are bringing that to market, and then how we are then integrating that into our technologies and giving our customers, I would say, flexibility on how they consume it. And I think that's what is giving us making us a really interesting player in the market is the different ways that we can allow customers to consume virtualization, whether that's in hyperconverged, whether that's on our technology, whether that's on, third-party technology. And I think that's really important, what we've heard in terms of what customers are looking at. So with that, let me get into the content. And what I'll start off with is really, I would say, nothing new. I think that's why most of you are probably here today is VMware obviously made a big change in terms of their licensing models, and customers are looking at ways on how they can mitigate a lot of those impacts, right? So, we've heard various stories around what the increases are, and the challenge is what is causing is now a lot of our customers are looking at, what is our next step? Do we renew? Do we look at alternate hypervisors? Do we move more into the public cloud? Do we look into things like containers? And oh, by the way, we're not getting any additional resources, so I don't want to have to introduce any more complexity into my environment, right? And the other thing we're also seeing is there has been a wave around repatriation. So public cloud obviously is a big driver of workloads, but what we're seeing is starting to be a little bit of a shift around bringing workloads back on-prem. This could be from a cost perspective, whether we're looking at things like egress fees or fees that were unexpected, whether there's a new data security or an industry regulation that's forcing us to bring it on-prem. We're starting to see part of that trend. Now, obviously, if we bring workloads back on-prem, we have to figure out how to get those out to our users. And the typical way is virtualization, right? The challenge, though, is what we're working with our customers is how do we help them open up more capital to be able to virtualize and run more workloads on-prem, right? because that's the key, and that's a lot of the challenge. So we want customers to be able to keep that kind of that cloud look and feel, but to be able to virtualize and run more workloads on-prem. So as far as VM Essentials, so we officially launched this solution at the end of last year, so 2024. And the goals really, obviously, number one was reducing costs, right? We wanted to provide a solution that helps customers reduce the cost for, we're focusing on is that kind of that general server virtualization. And I'll go through some of the features and functionalities and where we see ourselves positioning versus, what you might know from the VMware stack. So that's obviously a goal. But the other piece of it is, we believe that a lot of our customers are going to be running a dual hypervisor strategy. So I will be very frank that, VMware is a very mature company. It's a very mature technology. And it would be wishful thinking to say that we are going to be able to replace 100% of the features, right? There still probably might be some workloads that may have to run in VMware. What our focus, though, is while reducing costs, we want to also help simplify management. And so one of the values of what the technology is based on, and we'll talk about that, is it provides the ability to provide a single pane of glass to be able to manage multiple hypervisors. And that's really key, right? So those are things we want to be able to help you with, is not just on the cost, the management, the migration strategy, what workloads fit, and we'll talk about a lot of things we can bring to the table to help with that. Future-proof in terms of being able to upgrade and flexible ways to consume. I talked a little bit about that. And the last thing I want to point out is, there are a lot of players now that are coming into play right now. And I would say the one thing that differentiates Hewlett-Packard Enterprise is, we are an enterprise level company, global company. And so we can bring things like 24/7 global support to the table. And, we know that this is a big project when you're looking at moving off of VMware. And we want to help you reduce your risk. And we think that betting on a company like HPE and then our trusted partners like CTG, we can help you achieve that. So where did this come from? So we made a strategic acquisition last year of a software company called Morpheus Data. And if you aren't familiar with Morpheus, I would say the high level value of what they do is the ability to turn any hypervisor or Kubernetes cluster into a private cloud. Now they do a lot of other things, such as being able to bring public cloud into their framework and provide orchestration and automation, and to be able to manage all of these things through a single pane of glass. They do a lot of other things around ServiceNow integration. But the big value is how do we bring multiple technologies into that single pane to be able to do simple automation and orchestration. Now, what Morpheus had been doing is they had been working with KVM for a number of years, and they actually had developed this technology, or I would say the hypervisor stack on top of KVM, a number of years ago, and we're working with this in their lab. And HPE made the strategic acquisition that we would acquire them, and essentially that's what we have done, how we're taking VM Essentials to launch. It is essentially their technology, right? It is their ability to, again, utilize KVM as an enterprise virtualization solution. And so what VM Essentials essentially at launch is the Morpheus software, but really focusing on two areas: the ability to provision and manage KVM virtual machines, which is what VM Essentials is, but also the ability to provision and manage VMware, because we believe that customers are going to have that combination of both. Okay, so today we are running that we're offering that as a standalone solution that you can run on our technology. You can also run on third-party technology, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the options we have on that. We also embed this in our private cloud solutions, and that provides more value in terms of the ability to drive automation into the hardware stack. So things like automated deployment, simple single-click upgrades of both hardware and software, and then the ability to provide a solution-level support. So single phone call support for all aspects of the stack. And I'll dive a little bit into that a little bit as well. Now, again, the way customers can consume this, again, you can purchase the software from us. You can again purchase it integrated with our private cloud solutions, and that gets you that virtualization stack. Now, as I mentioned, now Morpheus does a lot of other great things now in terms of turning other hypervisor solutions into private cloud. So things like Nutanix or OpenShift or Azure Stack. If you're looking at that, we can bring that in as well, and that's done through the Morpheus Enterprise solution, right? So there's two software pieces to this. One is the hypervisor, the virtualization portion, but customers can also upgrade to full Morpheus Enterprise to take advantage of those additional features around integrating into other hypervisor clusters, Kubernetes, public cloud, self-service automation, integration into ServiceNow, things like that. And that's what full Morpheus would be able to get you. Now, I like showing this because we get a lot of questions, is this new technology? Did you guys just bring this out? We don't want to be the first person to look at this. We have a lot of the components that we are using in this stack have been out in the market for a while in terms of open source. So we are leveraging, and all the things you can see there that are in purple, those are open source capabilities that have been in the market for that a lot of vendors have been leveraging for a number of years. So things like Ubuntu, which is the underlying OS, KVM obviously has been out for a while. And then when you look at what Morpheus, again, Morpheus Data has actually been started as a project in 2010. It was launched as an official company in 2015. We've acquired them last year, and they are actually on version 8.0 of their software. So as I said, this is really, it's a combination of, again, open source technologies that have been out in a while. Morpheus, again, is a very mature technology. So again, this is stuff that has been in the works for a while, right? And not something that we are just bringing to market as a brand new solution. Now, as far as the feature functionality, so where we see us positioning around the virtualization components is really in that, if you're a VMware user, is in that, I would call customers that are in that Enterprise Plus type of solution or vSphere Standard. Those are really the areas that we are focusing on right now for VM Essentials, okay? If you are looking at, say, what VMware is doing around VMware Cloud Foundation or kind of the ARIA suite, so the Morpheus Enterprise is more going to be similar to that. I would say it probably is more similar to ARIA, right, and vRealize. So that's where Morpheus Enterprise is. Again, we're not going to talk much about that at all today. It's really focusing on today is really around the virtualization stack. So again, if you are using Enterprise Plus, those key features, things like automation, high availability, DRS, live host migration, high host and storage migration, affinity, anti-affinity, those are really where we are focusing on, is really those core vSphere features. Now, again, there's additional things we offer, the ability to support external storage. So whether you are looking at NFS, iSCSI, Fibre Channel, we have all of those options. So there's a lot of different ways. That gives us a lot of different ways that you can consume this as well. Now, what is coming next? Now, there are still a number of things that we are working on. So this, I will tell you that the release cadence has been very aggressive. So since our launch in December, we have done a release per month. We just released our version 8.0.9 this week, and that's why I was able to move the affinity, anti-affinity into the left column, because that was with that. But there's still a number of things that we are working on. So things like stretch clusters, ISV certification. So I can tell you that the big question we get is around, who are the data protection partners you're working with? And so our focus really is on Commvault, Veeam, and Cohesity. And our goal is really in the short term is that we will have full integration for image-based backups with those providers. And the other one is really around disaster recovery. So, we made a big acquisition a number of years ago with a company called Zerto. They really have a great value prop around DR and data migration. And so our goal is to have support for them in the near future as well. Now, one of the nice enhancements that we actually did release in the last month or so was a nice capability around migration. And obviously, this comes up in every discussion we have. What are the tools or the things that we can use to be able to migrate our virtual machines from VMware into this new environment. And so we did release a new feature that allows us to do this. It supports kind of a batch, you see a batch migration up to 20 VM, Linux, and Windows VMs simultaneously. I would say this is a nice tool. This is will not be the silver bullet, right? There's still probably recommend that we work with you all on a VM migration strategy in terms of the VMs that fit, and those are things that Hewlett Packard Enterprise and CTG can assist you with, right? So again, this is a tool again, and the big thing is this is built within the software, right? So there is no additional cost. This is a new feature that we have available to assist you in terms of your migrations from VMware into KVM. Now, as far as where we are, again, enterprise-grade virtualization, we talked about Morpheus has been working with KVM for a while. What also is very nice is the flexibility, right? So we are locking you into, say, an HCI packaging or a certain packaging that may not fit well within your environment to drive the TCO you're looking for. So there's lots of different ways that you can consume and deploy this. So whether this is just using local storage, whether I want to use external storage, whether that's iSCSI or fiber channel solutions, whether I want to consume this as a hyperconverged solution, or what we call disaggregated HCI or private cloud business edition, which I'll touch on a little bit. Those are really a lot of the options. Now, we also are working on validating a number of third-party hardware. So we know there's a lot of value in terms of what we're doing with ProLiant, with our primary storage, with a block storage array with Alletra, with HP Synergy. But we also know, the table stakes are we got to play with offer this up with other vendors. So we are working on that in terms of working with vendors like Dell, NetApp, Pure as well, to be able to give you a variety, to be able to validate a number of different types of providers. And then you can see some of the ecosystems that we're working with from the ISV community. I would say the big focus is really on the data protection piece. That's really a lot of what's driving the discussion in terms of Commvault, Veeam, and Cohesity. So the pricing. So we made a strategic decision that we have abandoned the core model that is obviously very famous and is causing a lot of disruption in the market, and we have gone to a strict socket model. So the charge on this is very simple, right? You pay by socket. We do not limit the amount of cores that you can run. So you can run the most powerful CPUs out there. You're going to pay one price. And I can tell you the list price is very attractive. So $600 a socket per year is our charge. And that's the list price. Okay, again, $600 per socket per year is the charge. And we sell that. You can actually consume that in a variety of different ways. So as a 1-year solution, 3 years, even 5 years. And I've had customers say, look, are you going to change your pricing? I'm not I can't foresee what's going to happen in the future, but we do have options to be able to lock in for 5 years. We even also have a 7-year option that we have now bundled in with our Private Cloud Business Edition solution, which I'll talk about next. So what Private Cloud Business Edition is it's essentially the iteration of what we've been doing with HCI, specifically disaggregated hyperconverged. And essentially what that means and why that's come onto the market is, customers were looking at deploying HCI really for workloads that were typical SAN workloads. And the challenge they found with HCI was, as it starts to scale up, it wasn't able to run business critical or mission critical workloads without excessive costs, right? Because it forced customers to have to over provision. And so that's why we came up with a solution called disaggregated HCI that we now package as something called Private Cloud Business Edition. It allows customers to, it is a disaggregated backend, right? Meaning I can scale compute and storage independently, but it's all managed from a simple cloud-like framework, kind of like what you would get in a public cloud provider. So this is probably one of the most, probably the fastest growing products that we have brought to market, right? And it fills a big gap around that. So we are now providing this as both a VMware solution, a VME solution, or we are also providing this as a dual solution, meaning a customer can purchase a private cloud stack, and you could be able to run both a VME cluster and a VMware cluster off that same stack, and then manage all of that through a single environment, through a single pane of glass. Okay, so again, a lot of value in terms of the stack, and that's not everything we do, right? So this is where I can take advantage of a lot of the automation I mentioned. So meaning things like full integrated automation on the deployment. The single click upgrade, meaning again, I can upgrade this as a full stack, not as individual components, solution level support, and then it comes with powered by our Electra MP array, which provides 100% uptime guaranteed. So again, the most critical types of VMs, again, we can now provide that in a 100% uptime with your choice of hypervisors, okay? And then on the additional piece we have is on HP Simplicity. So this is our traditional HCI appliance. And where we see this really being a fit is in smaller types of environments, specifically in, I would say, distributed environments, because number one, Simplicity can start with 2 nodes. So a 2-node high availability. We can start with our DL325, which is a 1U server. So if you've got, again, really small environments, we can get the cost down pretty good. And now to be able to run that both at either as a VMware or as a VM Essentials solution. Simplicity also comes with integrated data protection. So I have all of those things all bundled in a nice solution. So again, we give you a lot of options in terms of how you want to consume it. Again, a lot of different value adds. Again, our Gen 12 compute that we utilize now because of the efficiency that we drive really has a big impact on being able to help reduce VM licensing. Our DHCI stack, because it reduces the amount of infrastructure needed, we see customers, when they compare that against a vSAN HCI solutions, see a significantly attractive total cost of ownership reduction. And then again, VM Essentials obviously is a really good solution just in terms of how we're going to be able to reduce the licensing costs. So I'm going to turn it over to David in a second, but one last thing I wanted to leave you with, things that you can do as a next step. We've got a great solution called HP Cloud Physics. It is our SaaS-based assessment tool, 100% free for customers to be able to run. And one of the nice things that it does, it has a very nice feature to be able to help customers understand where there are opportunities to better optimize my VMware environment. So for example, if I'm looking at my renewal and I need to understand if, maybe if I am able to consolidate some of my environment, what impact might that have on my renewal, right? So if I'm looking to stay with VMware, these are tools that can help you understand where I can drive efficiency, or it can also help provide some insight into what my savings might be if I move over to VM Essentials. So if you're interested in taking advantage of this assessment, please reach out to us, your representatives at CTG, and we can definitely get you started on that. So with that, I know we have I'll flash these QR codes up right now. I think we'll probably show these later on to be able to get more information at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to David, and he'll go ahead and show the demo environment. And again, if you have any questions while this is going on, feel free to put those in the Q&A.
Yeah, use the Q&A. We got Mark for the rest of the afternoon. We also got the rest of our CTG team answer any questions that you may have. And, yeah, thanks, Mark. That was great. I think you hit a lot of the things that I like to talk about, and definitely is going to show here. So we are logging into our environment, and the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to log into the VM Essentials Manager. This is a lot like vCenter. This is a virtual machine that's running on premises in your environment that's going to manage your, or could manage your entire IT infrastructure. So we'll log into this manager. And as soon as you log in, it drops you into the operations dashboard where you can get a quick glance at your environment. You can see how much resources you're running, gives you some good green checks to see if everything's going right. Any favorites that you might have, it will put them here that you could then quick link. You could see your cluster capacity information, which clouds you're running. I got a HVM cloud, which is our HPE hypervisor along with the vCenter cloud and which workloads I have running at which, right? You see I got 2 clouds here. I've got 5 instances running, and on that I've got 1 instance in vCenter. I've got 4 in my VM Essentials environment. So the first thing that would happen is when you get this, you're deploying it, you need to set up your infrastructure. And this is going to look a little different than what you're used to. So if you come over to infrastructure, the first thing that you have to do is create a group. What the group is the list of resources or a bucket of resources that you need access to or that you're going to give your users access to. Again, remember, Morpheus was built for that private cloud infrastructure, which means self-service for your end users, give you that cloud-like environment on premises. So that group is all the resources that you want access to or that you want to give your users. Once you have that group, you will then add your cloud. You will add your cloud to that group. The cloud is your different resources. Again, we're talking here the VMware. So, and again, in the clouds, this is going to be the management plane for that particular technology. As Mark told you earlier, they could do all of the public cloud stuff. You could do Nutanix, Azure Stack, all of that. So that management plane for those technologies, that's what you're going to put here. So in the Essentials offering, by default, they're going to give you access to manage your Morpheus VM Essentials clusters and resources, as well as any VMware resources. So those are your 2 options with Essentials. So here we added our vCenter and we added our Essentials Manager, this guy up here. Once you have your clouds and you have that management plane, you are going to bring in the clusters, or the cluster here is your HVM clusters. So when you bring in your cloud for VMware, this brings in your clusters, your VMware clusters, and anything that's in your VMware clusters, it's going to bring to this management. So you could then manage and monitor all of your resources running in VMware. But your clusters here is going to be your Morpheus VM Essentials clusters. And again, you get a quick view of what's going on there, how much resources you're using, how many worker nodes you have, and what the overall health is, right? So after you've created all that, again, it's going to pull in all the resources, all the compute resources. So you pull in your vCenter, it's going to bring in your ESXi nodes, it's going to bring in our HVM nodes, anything that's on those nodes, all your networking and all your storage, it's going to bring that on with that as well. So going back, you're going to create a group. In the group, you're going to give the resources, which is going to be the cloud, which technology you want to manage and monitor. Within those, or then you'll create your clusters. With those clusters, it brings in all of your compute. So what we want to show here in this demo is some of the basic tasks that you'll be doing, as an administrator, as your users would be doing. So stuff like creating virtual machines, editing those virtual machines, right? People, you give your end users a virtual machines. They say they need more storage, they need more compute, they need different networks, whatever the case may be. But how to do that? Maybe you need to move a virtual machine off of a particular host for whatever reason. Maybe you need to do maintenance. Maybe there's an issue, failed drives or something. You need to get those virtual machines off. So those types of things, and how we could do that with VMware as well. So the first thing that we'll do is let's go talk about virtual machines. So here, you will go to provisioning and instances. So if I click on this provisioning menu, it brings us to the instance tab. Now, an instance has a relationship with a virtual machine. When you create an instance, it's going to create a virtual machine. But again, because of the way Morpheus was doing things, creating that private cloud infrastructure for you, an instance, if you think of an instance as a workload, so a workload could be one virtual machine, it could be multiple virtual machines. An instance could be something that you cluster and scale out, or something that you load balance and that you need to be elastic, right? Those are all the things that Morpheus was doing when they decided to put this solution out. So we've kept that, right? So an instance is going to be the workload, and that workload will determine how many virtual machines you're going to do. So if we want to create a virtual machine, and we're just going to say, this workload, only one virtual machine. You're in instance, or when you come to provisioning, you're in the instance, and you'll see our little breadcrumb here. You'll click add, and it's going to ask you, which cloud do you want to put this on? Do you want to put this in your HVM or your VMware environment? So we're going to say, put it on our VM Essentials environment. And then it's going to ask you, right? It brings these in already. It says, hey, here's your group. Here's the cloud that you have. But what do you want to name this? We're going to call this demo-01. And which environment do you want to put it in? We got a few environments here, and we'll put this in our production environment. Next. Now here is, and again, you'll see it's pretty simple, right? It's, hey, how much resources do you want? How much storage do you want? Which networks? And if you have any images. So the cool thing is this plan. By default, it's going to give you a couple of different plans. And again, this is t-shirt sizes. If you've been in any public cloud environments and deployed virtual machines, you'll see this looks pretty similar to what you're used to out there. So these are the ones they give you out of the box. If these don't fit your needs, you could go and create your own custom plans, or create some for particular business units. You think your test dev department needs certain plans. Your Oracle teams need certain plans. Your VDI team needs certain plans. You could create those and publish them out to those different. So I want you to take note that this is a 1 CPU 512 meg. For the demo, we have a couple of images, right? So think of these as templates. But you could also do ISOs. If I wanted to do a clean install from an ISO, like we've done in the past so many times, you could do that. But after you've created your template, you've installed the operating system, you put all the software and updates and everything else that you put, you could then create a template with it. Then that's what we got here, this QCOW2 Rocky Mountain. So we're going to use this guy, but watch what it does to my plan, right? So it clicked it over to a 1 CPU 4 gig because that's what my image is. It also changed my volume from a 10 gig to a 40 gig. So we're good there. We're going to hit next. And the other thing to note here is you see host. We can select which host to put it on, but if you hit the select, it's going to put it on whichever host is the most available. It's got the best resources for this particular system. So we'll hit next. Next, the automation. Again, we talked a lot about automation before. If you've got any post-install scripts, you needed to join a domain, you needed to install agents, usually antivirus, stuff like that. If you have those scripts already there, you can bring them into Morpheus and continue to use those. By default, there is a backup, and it is a KVM-based backup that you can use because this is built off KVM. So if we use that, again, the next thing is it's going to ask, where do you want to put this backup? We're targeting this file share, so you'll need some sort of file share to place your backups. We will call this demo-01-BKP. And then when do you want this to happen? Do you want a daily or a weekly? We want a weekly. Hit next, and then finally you come up to your summary screen. If everything looks good, hit complete, and off you go. Here on our instance, you see we now have demo 01. It gives us a status of provisioning. If you hover over the status button, it will show you what the status is. If you click on this guy, it will bring you up to the details page for this particular instance. And you see it gave us our little breadcrumb too. So from instance to demo 01, it gives us status bar, tells us the approximate ETA of what this is going to be. You will see, all of our information here. The next thing you could do is come into history, and it will give you a little more details about what's going on. And if you expand this, it shows you all the different stages that it's and functions that it's doing to make this virtual machine work. Another thing you could do from here is open a console. Of course, it's not deployed yet, but you could see what's going on. You could pop out the console from here. So you have a lot of the same features and functions that you're used to in your other hypervisor. But if we go back to instances, if I click on this breadcrumb, again, we see our demo 01, and I said the relationship between instance and virtual machine. It's demo 01. If you come over here, virtual machines, you see it has one virtual machine. So let's see if we wanted to do, say, a cluster. You have an Oracle cluster or a SQL cluster or any type of database cluster. You need multiple virtual machines to do that. So again, we'll click the Add button. We're going to say go to our VM Essentials environment. The name that we're going to give this, we will call this database cluster. We will put this in our production environment. And again, it's all the same information that you saw before. We will use the same image just for simplicity. But to do the cluster, we'll come down to advanced options and scale. Now, clusters are typically 3 nodes. We'll just do 2 nodes for this lab, just for, again, simplicity and speed. But it's going to say we want 2 virtual machines. I'll hit next. We don't care about any automation or backups for this one. And you see we've got all of our information, but now we have this scale factor. The scale summary says we are going to do 2. When we hit complete, you now see our DB cluster instance. Within our DB cluster, how many virtual machines? It has 2 virtual machines. Now, if we click on this particular instance, you see we have 2 status bars, 2 different ETAs. We are deploying DB cluster and DB cluster -2. And if you come over to history, we have 2 different tasks going on. You could expand either of these and see where they're at in that deployment process. So that's a little bit about the difference between virtual machines and instances. Remember, think of this as a workload. We could do a one-to-one, one-to-many. The next thing that I want to show you is VMware, right? We talked that we can manage your IT infrastructure. So if we open a new tab, I already have a new tab over here with my vCenter. Let me log in for you. Yes, I had that open too long. So if we, just for comparison, right, if we come back over to our VM manager, we come over here, we come to clouds. I go to my vCenter cloud. I can see my hosts. So this is host A01, A02. We come over here, host A01, A02. Come over to storage. You see we got site A. We come over to data stores. You see we have site A. We come over to networks. Got test and VM. Come over to networks, test and VM. So as I mentioned earlier, when you pull in that cluster, you know, that vCenter manager, and it brings in all the cluster and all the virtual machines and everything else, it's pulling in all that information and it will publish it here in VM Essentials for us. So you see we have VMware. We have it attached and associated with our VME manager. If we come back over to provisioning, we'll click add, but this time instead of hitting DHVM, we'll hit VMware, hit next. As you notice, it looks exactly the same. So we'll say demo 02. And again, we'll go to our production environment, hit next. Exactly the same as you saw with the HVM, still the same plans. We will select our Rocky VM template. You see it changed it to 40 again and changed it to the 4 gigs. If we wanted to make this a cluster, we could do the same scale factor. We're not going to do that for this one. And we'll hit next. The same automation tasks, backups, very similar, except for rather than KVM-based snapshots, it's going to be a VMware-based snapshot. You still need a file share. -02-BKP. And again, do you want a daily or weekly? We'll just say weekly for now. Summary. So you can see it's the exact same process, exact same questions, very, very similar to what you would do in your other environment. So when we hit complete, you will now see demo 2, 1 virtual machine, and the status is provisioning. Again, if we click on this guy, the same information, we're going to get that ETA. You could get your history, or you could go over to vCenter and see, hey, I'm doing a virtual machine from that template. Here is that demo 2 virtual machine. So as you can see, I can deploy to my VM Essentials. I could deploy to VMware. If we upgraded to Morpheus Enterprise, you could deploy to Nutanix, Azure Stack, public clouds, right? Amazon or AWS and Google Cloud and all those other guys. You can do all that stuff from here. So that's how you're going to deploy your different instances. Now that you've got your instances, you've given it over to your end user, they're going to come over and say, you know what, I got that that virtual machine, but I need some more resources. So if we come over to our infrastructure, came over to compute, then I click virtual machines, you can see all of our different virtual machines that we got here. So your end user will tell you, you know, demo 01 that you gave me, I need some more storage space, right? You gave me 40 gigs of storage and I need double that. You gave me access to a production network, but I need access to my development network. Can you do that for me? So yes, we can. So when you go over into compute, you get into your virtual machines, you click on the virtual machine that you want, you then go to actions. When you go to actions, there's a reconfigure button. When you hit reconfigure, it shows you the resources that are available to that virtual machine. We could change our compute resources as well. We're not going to do that right now because that will require a reboot. So what we want to do is give more storage. We're going to give another volume to it. So if you click the plus sign next to the volumes. It brings up a second volume down here. We're calling it data 2, another 40 gigs, and here's the data store that it's going to be on. Same thing for networks. There's a little add button over here. Click the add button. Which network do you want it to be on? We want it on development, and we'll hit reconfigure. Off it goes. You see right here, we are now resizing. And if we hit the refresh button, you see it is now provisioned. If we come to networks, we now have two networks, our production and our development network. And we have our root and data 2 40 gig drives. Now, let's say for some reason, node 2 is acting up. You want to bring it down for maintenance and you want to take this virtual machine off. Again, the same thing. We'll come to infrastructure, come to compute, come to our virtual machine submenu, find demo 01. You see it's on node 2, but we're going to take node 2 down. We'll hit actions and do manage placements. When you manage placement, it says which node it's on. Which node do you want it to be on? So we'll say node 3. Save changes. We give this one a second here. And if we hit the refresh button, you will now see it is on node 3. So that is how you would add resources to a virtual machine, move that virtual machine from one host to another. And just to show, let's check on this VMware one. Okay, so VMware Demo 2 is running. But let's say Demo 02, they gave you the same information, said, hey, you know what? Demo 02, I need more resources. The storage is not enough. You see, we have that 140 gig drive, the network on the VM network. I need it on my test network, and I need another 40 gigs. So from the Demo 02 summary page, I'll hit actions, reconfigure. As you see, it's the same process. We could do the compute stuff as well, but we're not going to do the compute. We're going to give it data 1, another 40 gigs for networks. Click the plus button again. We want to go to the test network. You reconfigure. Off it goes. And again, just to show you, we go over to VMware, Demo 2. You see we have our reconfigure tasks. We come to hard disks. We have hard disk 1 and 2. So we have our two 40 gig disks. And the same thing with network adapters, VM test, or VM network and our test network. And if we come back over here, if we give this, we have two interfaces, VM network, test network, same thing, storage. So that is how you would deploy virtual machines. That's how you would interact with the virtual machines, edit the virtual machines, migrate the virtual machines. There's tons of other things that we can do in here, but just wanted to show you at a quick glance that we can do these things that you're used to doing in your other hypervisor environments. It is here, it is built in. You could do it not only in your VM Essentials clusters, but you could manage those VMware clusters. The other thing that I would like to mention, and Mark mentioned it in his presentation, It's not here in this version. This version is 806. It's the new version 808. But when you come to tools, there is going to be that migration tool. That migration is from VMware to HVM, converting that VMDK into a QCal2. That way you could run it in your HVM environment. And I think that's all that we had to show here. I would just like to mention again, our sales teams will be reaching out to each one of you, making sure that we addressed any questions, concerns, comments. If you want any more information or want a deeper dive into the environment, let them know. We will more than happy to do this on a one-on-one individual basis. We also have the ability to give you this lab environment. You can have this lab environment. You can run through it, run through its paces. Mark and his team also have provided a trial version so you could go and download this software, install it in your environment. Again, we could definitely help you out with that, run you through and let you do your own type of a proof of concept in your environment to run this side by side with your VMware environment. So I will hand it back to the team. John, Jeff, Mark, any closing questions, concerns, comments?
No, I think this is great. I mean, it shows that you can still kind of look at a migration strategy where you're not having to do a total forklift, rip and replace and training curve. You can still run two environments at the same time. I've got customers that are currently, they've got some VMs on serious production and they're like, we're not going to move. But then they looked at this as non-prod or other things in the environment that literally cut their VMware renewal by 50%. And it's pretty interesting, David, that you showed this in scale. But again, our guys, technical team, they'll work with you. As Mark said, the cloud assessment is totally free, and our engineers can help you go through that, get an assessment of your environment, look at what potentially could be cost savings. But part of that too is working with your SA and helping get education and training. So you get a nice comfort level going from one to the other. But I'll open it up for any people that might have some questions for the technical team.
So all the mics are closed. You'll have to post them in the Q&A if you want them answered on the phone now, or again, reach back out to your sales team. I'm sure the sales team will be reaching out to you. So any questions, concerns, feel free to shoot them over.
David, there is a question from Daniel on how can the product help converting workloads from VMware to HP? I know you covered that, I believe, just a little while ago. Do you want to go over that again?
Yeah, and I did respond to that, but yes, within within the environment here, within the manager, we don't have it here, but you'll come to tools, there will be a migration. And if you see that presentation that I could bring that up here. So in his screenshot of the migration, you see he went to tools rather than Cipher archives. There is a migration. What the migration does, it creates a migration plan. So you could do a one virtual machine, or you could do a bulk up to 20, as it says here. So it depends on what you want to do there. You'll create the plan. You'll say, where is the source? Where is the target? And then it will do this mapping of resources. This is very similar to when you used to do those P2Vs, when you used to use VMware Converter to convert all of your old servers and desktops, and you wanted to bring them into VMware. It's similar to that, and that it's going to say, which networks do you have on that VMware environment? Which networks do you want to map them to? in your HVM environment. And the same thing with the storage. Hey, it's on this data store in VMware. Which data store do you want on HVM? And it could be the same data store, right? You could have the same data store attached to your VMware environment that you do in your HVM environment. So it creates that plan. Once you set that plan and you want it, it is going to require downtime as well. So you want to probably schedule this for some time when you have the availability for that downtime, because it has to convert that drive. So it's going to take it down. So after you create the plan, then you could say run the plan at such and such time, or you'll come back after hours or during the weekend when you do these types of things and say launch the plan or start the plan, run the plan. I believe it's a run button. So you hit run the plan, off it goes. It does all those tasks. It over to VMware. It pulls the drive. It goes over to HVM. It creates a shell virtual machine, and it clones that drive from VMware over to HVM. After it does that conversion, then it will turn on the virtual machine. Everything should be good after that. Any other questions here? Do VMs need to be powered off for? Yes. Okay. Got that one. It will require downtime. Any other questions, concerns? If not, we're at the top of the hour, and again, mindful of everybody's time, so we'll cut it. But
David did a great job on the presentation. I want to thank HPE for being part of this. And I just want to point out, we're going to start having more technical series that will be coming out, and we'll make sure that you guys kind of get the invites. We're going to be looking at from a AI perspective, PCAI, some of the great solutions that HP has integrated into their storage platform from a file, object, and block. Things that would makes automation more in tune into the IT environment that normally would require manual tasks. It seems that that's where everyone's going, the industry's going, but also the multi-cloud, on-prem, off-prem, and other financial aspects to solutions like GreenLake that HPE offers. So stay tuned for our series. I find this in many conversations with customers, it's nice to see it, nice to be able to kick the tires and not have a lot of marketing fluff. So our goal is to have our engineering team run these type of webinars. So if you found this one to be beneficial, love to have you on future technical webinars. But I just, again, want to thank you for your time and being with us today. And I hope you found this very informative. Always love good feedback, things that we can always do better to make these more attuned or more technical for you guys. So might get a follow-up survey, and please be honest. That's how we make things better for you and make it more informative for you. But again, thank you for your time and your considerations today.
Thank you, team, and we'll chat next time.